Something we don't talk about near enough as sports creatives is that need to take time off. It's so easy in this business to let it drain every ounce of energy out of us because, well, frankly, we love doing what we do, right? But if we don't take that time off, if we don't take a vacation, that passion, that creativity that got us into this business is just going to completely flatline. Trust me, I speak from experience. I've burned out twice in this business. So consider this episode your permission slip to take a day off, put that phone away, and just do a little recharging. Welcome back to the latest episode of Sports Creatives Anonymous. I'm your host, Clayton Jones, and if you're watching on YouTube, welcome to my third backdrop in 4 episodes. We're actually in the process of we've sold our house and we're going to be moving. So my office I had took apart to sell the house, and so now I'm just kind of a wanderer when it comes to setting up my podcast and everything else. So, but if you're just listening to my voice, none of that matters. But anyways, it's summertime, right? And so I figured it'd be a great time to discuss taking time off, especially those of us in collegiate athletics. This is our time to kind of take a deep breath, relax, kind of recharge that battery. But I think for a lot of us, it's really difficult, and it has been for me in the past. We're just kind of wired to go, go, go. And there's always something we feel like we could be doing. But it's also easy to forget that usually by that spring season, we're kind of dragging it. It's you're usually kind of counting the weekends until you finally get some time off. You get a weekend again. But that creativity tank is on E, right? Like you're just sick of looking at the same templates that you've been making, the same branding stuff, writing the same recaps. We're doing, all the different things that you've been kind of doing repetitively, and you're kind of in a robotic mode. And so something I've been embracing more of especially as I get older, 20 plus years as a quote unquote sports creative, the last 10 in college athletics, I've kind of learned that something I wish I would have earlier is that, rest and recouping is a strategy, not slacking. It's not being lazy. Rest is kind of part of the work, taking care of yourself. It's kind of like being an athlete, right? An athlete goes out and they can't just go, a soccer player can't go 90 minutes, then, have no time off and then go 90 minutes the next day. And, they need that recovery time to be at their optimal level. The same thing is, especially, as a creative, some of the stuff that we do, especially in communications, doing stuff, but I think almost anything though, you really want to be fresh and you really want to have that clear state of mind and that gas tank of energy and creativity on full. I'm the head of communications at a Division II school, and I'm the only full-time person on staff. So really my only time to take any stretches of time off, it's about a 7-8 week period in the summer. So I take about 4 weeks, my 4 weeks off almost all in a big bunch. And, it's a really good time for me just to kind of step away, not pick up my camera for a few weeks usually as well. I do some side work, so sometimes I still pick up the camera with that. But for me this time around, getting this podcast going, doing some other things for myself to kind of recharge that battery, get that passion going again instead of just go, 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 go. I also kind of tend to come up with better ideas when I'm just relaxing, and not even that I have to be relaxing. It's just doing something else. Many of us that work in sports, we're doing something that we enjoy. So a lot of times hobbies and our work kind of intertwine a little bit, right? And sometimes that means our work becomes maybe a little bit too much of a part of our identity. I'll admit, I've definitely been someone in the past that's confused work ethic with an unhealthy relationship with my work. I've probably had work become too much of my own personality, and I've had a hard time resting and taking that time off, and I've paid the price. I think a future episode that I'll talk more about in depth, burnout and my own instances with it. But, twice it's happened to me because I failed to set boundaries and didn't take the appropriate time off to recharge. And I know we're kind of getting off the topic of resting and recharging, but it's definitely something I want to stress to those who may be feeling burnout is the biggest thing I think to do is to set boundaries. It's one of the things I did. I say no to things. And more importantly, and most importantly, is you want to take that time off during the summer or whenever you have a break and really have a firm boundary on people not contacting you unless it's an absolute emergency, which we work in sports. It's generally not an emergency. So having that time for yourself to really recharge, especially if you're in a small department, you definitely don't want to sit there and it's easy to just keep working, always being on because there's no one else to do the stuff. And I've done this. So really set those boundaries and take that time off. It's so important to take that time off because creative burnout escapes nobody. You think, you youngsters may think that, oh, I may escape it. I can go year round. Oh, of course. Like it's easy to say, but trust me, your work will suffer. Even if you're not maybe physically tired, your creativity isn't as fresh as it needs to be. And you need to take that time off. You need to go look at other things. Just let your brain relax for a bit. Because at the end of the day, that's when your best work is going to happen, is when your brain is fresh and ready to roll. So you may be asking yourself, or asking me maybe, Clayton, how do I recharge? I guess only you know how you're going to recharge. But in case you're not sure, I got some ways here that may help you get that creative juice back. If you're still kind of feeling that kind of juice to still want to create something, well, get away from the sports thing and just create something completely useless that, on purpose, right? You could argue that's what I'm doing with this podcast. Hopefully not too useless, but, do something. I do a Catterday thing with my pets sometimes on my social media. You could do hikes, you could do vlogs. There's all kinds of different things that you can do to create that's outside of making sports highlights or, stats or whatever else you may be doing as a sports creative. Just do something fun and different. And I think sometimes that'll bring some different ideas that maybe you didn't have in the past and just kind of gives you a fresh perspective on things. Another thing I like to do is just watch a game or go to a game without any responsibilities of being there other than being a fan, right? Kind of brings you back to that reason why you enjoy sports. And it isn't viewed in your eye as work. I wish it's something I would have done sooner because I know myself, I've slightly become less of a sports fan, I think professionally and doing in some different things, but maybe that's just me growing, just out of it a little bit too. But I know I still like going to a game and just enjoying it and just being a fan and realizing, okay, this is what it's all about. This next one's for those overthinkers and folks who have a hard time turning their mind off like I do. Something that I'll do sometimes is, I'm still flipping through social media and I do enjoy watching other creators and what's going on and creatives. But sometimes I start looking at them and I'm like, man, that's really good. How do I figure out how to do that? And I just then I'm not relaxing, right? I'm completely thinking about work again. So I'll delete those accounts. Now in the back of my mind, I remember them and I'll follow them again later. But kind of taking that step back from that, maybe just hopping off social media in general is probably a good idea. But if you are going to be on social media, maybe like those accounts that like inspire you, maybe hide them, unfollow them for a little bit, do something else just so you don't feel like you are getting back in that work mode and letting your brain really relax. Another great thing to recharge is, especially for us more seasoned folks, I'll say, but hey, these are for everybody. Take a nap. I love me a good nap, but just that physical recharge, getting some rest, getting some sleep, listening to your body. I think that's really important when you're trying to recharge and make yourself just feel 100% when you're going back to work again. Something I advocate definitely for, and I try to do as much as possible, is taking real weekends. Once those games are over and you're not responsible to shoot stuff on the weekends, and if your side gig doesn't, you don't need to be doing it too. Take real weekends off. Go enjoy the things that you kind of miss out on for the other 7, 8, 9 months, depending on when your season is a year, right? The fun part of working in sports is you get to work in sports. Sometimes the difficult part is it's really tough on the personal life, right? You're working weekends, you're working nights because that's when sports happen. So when you have that opportunity to kind of live a normal, uh, I just realized I did air quotes for a podcast. Sorry, air quote normal life. Do it because it's kind of fun to get out on a Friday, Saturday night and be with friends, be with your loved ones. And, the last thing I'll just kind of bring up is it's a little deep probably, but, it's something I've been doing more so recently is take the time to work on yourself. Um, I know that's pretty deep, but honestly, it's easy to kind of lose yourself in this business. And like I said, it becomes a part of your personality and like who you are. And that's not healthy. We need to make sure we have our lives outside of doing what we do, even if we love doing what we do, but to have that identity outside of it. And it's something I'm honestly still struggling to get back into a little bit more, but it's taking that deep look into yourself and finding who you are as a person. And honestly, it's going to come out in your creativity. You're going to feel more authentic, even as whether it's your personal brand in particular, that authenticity is really going to shine. So something I'm trying to do here, trying to be vulnerable. Hopefully as the podcast goes on and just all the other things I create, it starts shining through more and more the person who I am. And as I kind of go on this journey of finding myself, a little eat, pray, love advice apparently there. Sorry. All this resting talk, the big part of doing the rest, the taking the time off. And like I said, it's not a selfish thing. It's actually part of a bigger picture. It's part of the plan. It's something you should be doing as a responsible employee. And it fuels your creativity. I know for myself, like I said, I'm just getting done taking off a few weeks, and I was watching, I don't even remember this. I was watching a documentary. I know I'm old. I watch documentaries. And a font popped up on there, and it was this like sparkly and then had a little bit of texture to it. And for some reason, it just hit my brain. And I'm just like, holy heck. Like, I want to use something like that this year. I think that'd be really cool. And like, it just like inspired me to kind of start thinking about other things. And it just makes me realize like how much taking time off and turning my brain off actually helps me in the long run. This is just all to say that, it's July. We're going to hit August pretty soon, especially out there to those, my fellow collegiate sports creatives. And the season's going to be here before we know it. And so we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, making sure that we're properly prepared for the season in terms of our mental and physical health. Because if you are already stressed out going into August, you're going to be throwing your laptop off the press box by October probably, or screaming at an intern for no reason, or just not being the best version of yourself when we start getting towards crossover season. So I think it's just, don't feel like that you're behind. I like to think of it as you're just buffering. You're just kind of regaining steam a little bit, getting that memory back, right? You're gathering all the information and strength for the upcoming sports season right now. It's okay to not work 40 plus hours a week right now. It's important for you to talk to your bosses about that and giving you that time off, taking 3-day weekends. This whole creative culture of just working and working and working, and that being a badge of honor has to be done. If we want to continue in this, business promoting health and continuing to be creative people. And this is probably, again, more towards the collegiate creators out there, but I know all of you make a list that you want to take care of every summer or each summer, right? I do. We all do, I think. And it never fails that you never get to a lot of that list because you just think, oh, I have all this time off. But in reality, you need to be taking time off. You need to be recharging. This is my third summer working at my current institution at Western Oregon. And I've had two things I've really wanted to have done each of these summers before I get rolling again. When I got here, the record books for most of the sports hadn't been updated since 2017. And then we didn't really have a branding guide, and I really wanted to put something really in depth and together for that instead of just having some cheap one sheet, whatever. Anyways, safe to say it's on my current list right now as we speak. And I'm hoping to get some of those things done, but everything's not going to get done, and that's okay. I used to really hammer myself, especially, this might be the first summer that I really am not hammering myself about not finishing these projects and realizing, we just got to keep moving forward and I got to take care of myself. And that's how I'm going to serve, my sports at Western Oregon the best. So as we wrap up this episode of Sports Creatives Anonymous, I'd love to hear some of your recharging practices or stories and things that kind of help you get ready for the upcoming season. So shoot me a DM at Sports Creatives Anonymous on any of the social media, or you could email me at sportscreativesanonymous@gmail.com. Go ahead and do me a favor too and shoot me a follow or a subscribe or wherever you're catching this podcast or on social media or whatever, right? Go ahead and support. I'd love to continue to build this community. And be sure to go ahead and share this with maybe a fellow, hopefully not too tired at this point in the summer, creative. And just please remember, you don't need to earn rest. You need it to keep creating.